I'm very pleased that Mikhail Sokolov of DataHow has joined us. Tell me, first of all, what does DataHow do?
Thank you very much for having me here, first of all. And DataHow is an engineering company focusing on digital tools to support process development and manufacturing in the biotech area as well as in the chemical area. So, in a nutshell, basically, all of us see those trends in digitalization, big data, which is going on across all the industries. For instance, in automotive, if we look at like a production side of Volkswagen, they have 98.5 for degree of automation. That means just 1.5% human hand touching the process. If you look at pharma, chemistry, very conservative industries. 30, 40, maybe 50% of digitalization and automation. So there's, a huge potential to improve. And we believe that to do so, we cannot just rely on the classical artificial intelligence, machine learning models, which we see across the other industries. We have a very, very complex process, usually based on some sort of a living organism producing our final product, and therefore we must use our knowledge about that organism to center our solution around. So therefore we consider ourselves more of an engineering company rather than a pure data science company.
You're an enabler, essentially.
Indeed, yeah.
You make things happen. And of course I'm guessing that actually it's very important that there isn't the hands-on contact with cell products, because whenever there is human intervention, there's the potential for contamination, and we know that that's a real important thing to avoid in cell therapies.
Absolutely. So I believe the human intervention should be this human intuition and the human capability to innovate outside of touching the process. So our idea is not that later on the digital tools which we're developing together with our partners will replace human beings entirely. They should support decision taking and reduce any sort of risks and failures which come at high cost when looking at those manufacturing processes. And getting this added value from those tools, people can still challenge those tools with their ideas. So they are clearly complementary, those two things going together, but life should become easier, life should become simpler to the operations team. And this, as you say, should become more automated, so they shouldn't spend that much time in the labs, rather than having this 2-3 screens telling them everything what is going on, and like this providing them based on probabilities, based on any sort of what they would like to have as a support for their decision taking. So in order to reduce the risks which they're facing, as well as of course to get to the targets which they have in mind.
That's really interesting, and I guess that you've got a very different worldview from perhaps some of the other people here at this conference. You're seeing it from a completely different angle. What are the trends that you're seeing here?
Well, I must say, with our background, we are a bit of an outlier here in the sense that we provide digital solutions, we provide quantitative tools. It's very nice to see that there's this AI in healthcare track, which look at the process from a different perspective. So they have the molecule ready, and they want to see, well, what's the probability that this molecule is going to make the clinical trials? And for us, we work on the earlier stage to understand, well, how do we define the process to get that molecule? So I see some synergies, for instance, to say, well, what are the best parameters we have to set in our process to get a molecule, use their tools to understand would that molecule make the clinical trials, and therefore we could have an overall idea of understanding, well, how do I select my process parameters to make the clinical trial? So we jump a big step. We forecast already very early in terms of, is that molecule a very nice candidate, or shall we anticipate it? And here, as all the other exhibitors, they provide more hands-on solutions, so devices or media components and so on to enable other things. And I think our processes are so complex that you have to combine many different disciplines, so that eventually we'll have cell therapies, we'll have very interesting biopharmaceuticals which are capable to actually solve or stabilize many of the problems which we have. And I believe that engineers have a key role in that.
Engineers are essential to life, is what I believe.
Absolutely.
What I'm also hearing from around the floor here is that scaling up is a real issue. Because while we have bespoke products, the price is going to be very high, and you really need to scale in order to not only get it to as many patients as possible, but also to reduce the price. And is that an area where you see your kind of company making an impact?
Indeed. So we have supported different of our partners in starting from screening at small scale, taking important decisions there, using one sort of quantitative tool supporting the decision taking, then moving to another scale, and the rules of the game change there. All of a sudden you start steering differently, all of a sudden you start using other parameters which can bias your processes, and for them again you need a certain decision support to do. And therefore we believe that there will be never one digital tool which you just throw at the data and then you'll know what to do. You need a toolbox of different tools which will support you throughout the entire life cycle of such a molecule, starting from defining what is the molecule up to the level of, what does the molecule and how does the molecule perform in the actual body.
Anything that you've heard here that you think was really exciting? Wow.
So I'm a big fan of all those new therapies which come on the market, and the idea which they challenge is it's an absolutely new mindset. So it's not this classical small molecules like aspirin which we think these are actual drugs. So I think we challenge our idea of what is medication on a bi-yearly basis, and what is the state of the art which we will use to cure different diseases. And therefore I believe that tracking this, we're always facing a new paradigm of thinking, and I believe also this entire way of how engineers have to support there has to change with that. And also if we speak about what do we have engineers to know, we have to also educate a new generation of engineers which are no longer those classical mechanical engineers who are capable to fine-tune all the hardware technology, but really think of a process being something which is living, because we are using living organisms for our processes, and this is a very important insight and very important training which the new generation of engineers has to have.
You've clearly had a really good time here. How important are these kind of events to companies that are perhaps slightly outside what might be considered core audience?
So I believe for us this conference is very interesting in the two perspectives. Basically, on the one hand, to talk to others who are not too familiar with our tasks or with our daily challenges which we have, but still to see parallels, because in the end, data science, it's everywhere. So we see data problems or data analytics in many domains, and then we see parallels where we can learn from. It's not solutions which we can provide to problems which are absolutely out of our focus, but still the algorithms which someone is using compared to us, I think we can learn from each other. And secondly, it's very nice to see that what is our actual role in this overall landscape of the life cycle of those molecules. Where do we contribute? Whom should we partner with best? Because there's a very nice synergic effect. And what are the trends which we should be ready for in the future?
Great, thank you so much. And I'm delighted you've had such a good time here.
Thank you.